Ladies and gentlemen, I told you yesterday when you saw this image that I made a promise on this light pole. I made a promise to the people that were there and the people that were watching all over the world. I said, I can't do everything, but I'm going to do my part. And as a leader, there's a saying that I have repeatedly used to my team, to others. Good people find good people. And when you find somebody who's a good person, who has a heart to serve others, it's easy to build a friendship. I'm going to tell you a story about a little boy. Little boy from Antioch, Tennessee. Can I tell you, there's a lot of times in life that you and I have reflected back to when we were just young. And think of the innocence, think of the ideas, the places you wanted to go, the things that you and I saw as possible, the fact that you had real superheroes, even if your childhood had some bumps. If you think back to the innocence of a child, we all had an equal start, one way or another, but we didn't have the same opportunities. Somewhere along the line, and you know better than anybody in your life, things happen. People come into your life, they go out of your life. People are taken from you. People break promises. But along the way, things happen where you now go from the little boy, little girl stage into your teen stage. And it's during this transition where we go into a new chapter of our life. Can I tell you that the work here at the World Literacy Foundation, at Oxford University, you have a mission that is to restore hope in humanity through literacy. My first love, my first story, my first connection was with my mother, reading a bedtime story. Jamie, with our two sons, reading a bedtime story. The connections that we have. But those stories end, and we start writing our own story. From little boys and girls to teens, depending on where your path take you, will take you to a path that can lead to some darkness. And during that path of darkness, that's where a lot of people's journeys end. But not for everyone. And if you're watching this wherever you are around the world, remember you could be at any one of those stages, any one of those chapters where you thought there is nothing for me, that I have no hope. All you need to do is find one person, believe in one story, and latch onto that with all you have. The story could have ended here, but it didn't. Jason DeFord, the little boy that I introduced you to, grew up to be Jelly Roll. A name given to him by his mother, not a stage name, but a nickname. A name that has identified a person who not only is a great musician and songwriter, but somebody who cares for people, who has a mission to use his gifts and talents to speak to the world, to change juvenile justice centers, the social centers, those that are feeling like they have no hope, the addicted, those that are in poverty, those that are homeless, and those that need some kind of superhero to believe in. He won't call himself a superhero, but I do, because I have personal knowledge that he's the real deal. And when I say good people find good people, I found Jelly Roll, and I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Jason DeFord, Jelly Roll. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, the little boy from Antioch, all grown up. You're sitting there, big guy.
What's up, y'all?
We're going to have ourselves a conversation.
I'll tell you something cool. This picture is from a place called, they call it the Shelter downstairs. It's St. Andrew's Music Hall. It's in downtown Detroit, Michigan. It's where the famous 8 Mile was filmed, if you ever watched the Eminem movie. And it holds about 1,000 people upstairs and about 300 people downstairs. That was probably my 20th show in Detroit. In my last show in Detroit, I did the arena downtown and headlined it, and now I'm going back to play the stadium, so that's how good God is, baby.
That's it. Can you believe that you are sitting on a stage at Oxford University that held its first class in the year 1096 in the United Kingdom? Like, how did that happen? Where would you have been sitting 15 years ago today?
Cell 227 in the Corrections Corporation of America facility off Hardin Place.
Man.
That was actually 17 years ago now, because that little girl that I tell the story about. So when I was incarcerated, y'all, my life-changing moment was a guard knocked on my door and told me that I had a little girl that had been born that day, and I had my first daughter. And I remember thinking about how low I was in life. You want me to tell this story now, or should I wait?
Tell it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What happened?
Because I think this is why I'm here. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I have really failed. I am in charge of a whole nother human now. And it was the first time that in my narcissistic, selfish way at the time, I thought that my crimes didn't affect anybody. I thought that selling drugs was a victimless crime. I know better now. But at the time, I thought my own selfishness didn't affect anybody. And I was like, oh no, this is a direct reflection of her. And I was well read because in jail I'd read hundreds of books, being years of, dozens of years incarcerated. But I had never been to school. I'd never walked on a high school campus prior to this. I'd been incarcerated my entire juvenile life. And I didn't know what to do, so in a frantic scramble panic of clarity, I was like, I should get my GED. I was like, I should go to school or something, and I found out that they had a GED program in that jail, and that exact same day I went and got my GED, and you said, what would I be doing 15 years ago? I'm not sure, but I can tell you for sure what I was doing 17 years ago, 100%. May 22nd, I can tell you what I was doing 17 years ago.
That's beautiful. This little guy right there.
I have full custody of that 17-year-old now, by the way, y'all.
And she's a good little girl, you say.
She's
Her
cool.
name is?
Her name's Bailey Ann. She'll be 17. She's a dual enrolled student, meaning she's taking college courses already as a junior in high school. She's kicking ass, dude. She's cooler than me.
You said this is about the age group that things went bad in your juvenile career. Tell us what happened.
In all kinds of ways. That was the closest I've ever been to a six-pack in my whole life, right there. That's it. I remember. It's coming back, Sheriff. It's coming back. But yeah, this is probably about the age whenever I started trying to figure out who I was, and I was a confused kid for sure.
I read in your story that the justice system can be cruel, and especially for a young offender. Here's a transition where a kid, that brain doesn't develop to age 25. You're making decisions. You have struggles with home, which a lot of us relate to. But if it doesn't change there, it's going to continue to go down a dark, broken path. And that's what led to that guy.
Ooh.
Who's that guy?
God, this is awesome. You should do this for my YouTube channel. This is so good. This kid was, as you could tell, the six-pack disappeared. I was talking about this kid the other day on a podcast where in therapy they have this theory that there's a shadow of yourself that kind of follows you, and that you have to come to grips and make peace with that shadow because you're never going to get it away from the dinner table. And this is my shadow. This was a kid that felt desperate for connection, and I was in a neighborhood that the easiest way to get it was crime and gangs.
That's a story a lot of folks can relate to, no matter if you're in the United States or not. But you had a special family around you. You had uncles. You had your dad that you would go sit at the office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And your dad said something to you when you're going through some things. And he said, I'm not sure I'd leave my house if I didn't have one to go to.
Yeah.
Tell us about that scenario, what that meant to you.
Well, it's probably the greatest lesson my father ever taught me. I was fixing to break up with this girl, and I was young, and I was over dramatic about it. You know how you are. So I sit down with my dad. I'm like, I'm leaving her tonight. I'm packing my bags. I'm getting out of this horrible relationship right now. And all my dad said, and I laid this on him for 20 minutes, y'all. I mean, I was just talking the side of his face off at this old bar. And he finally looks back at me, and all he said to this whole spiel about how much I hated this girl I was with was, I sure wouldn't leave my house if I didn't have one. And to this day, I apply that to every principle. It's one of those core value things that was for that situation, but it counts everywhere. You know what I mean? It was the first time in my life somebody had told me, why don't you start planning ahead? Without just flat saying, why aren't you planning ahead?
That's wisdom right there. Were you into music during this time period of your life? How did that happen?
Oh, dude, music. I grew up in a household with 3 older brothers and an older sister. Do you know what that means? Y'all know what that means? As the youngest, that means I didn't control the radio at all. I never had an opinion or a vote what was getting played in any car, motor vehicle, or room I went in. Hand-me-downs. I never got to pick my own shoes. I had to develop my own style. I just seen the cute. Are you the youngest? Okay. I could tell because as soon as I started talking, your wife put her hand on your lap and she patted you. It was the sweetest thing I've ever seen. You relate to me in my soul. It is, but because of that, I never had an opinion. But it turned out to be my superpower because I learned a lot about fashion because I had 3 brothers that all dressed differently. And back then, I don't want to show my age here, y'all, but I grew up in the 1900s. And during that era, you were kind of defined, at least where we're from, by your musical choices. So if you listen to rock and roll music, you could not publicly listen to any other kind of music. That was all what they called closet listening. And having a bunch of older brothers and sisters that all wanted to be different, you know, I had a sister that listened to nothing but rock and roll. I had a brother that listened to dark heavy metal. I had another brother that listened to nothing but gangster rap music. I had a dad that listened to James Taylor and a mama that listened to Waylon Jennings. So music was like, yeah, I know it's a crazy household, right? Now wait till I start talking about all the drugs that were in there too. But it taught me a lot about music, so I was so connected to music anyways. Music was like how our family would process emotion or anything together. We would come together and listen to music like people would sit around a television. You know what I mean? Like we would all gather around and my mother would tell these incredible stories about what we were fixing to listen to. Like, you know, back then she was like an orator. She'd be like, so James Taylor wrote this song while she was smoking her cigarette, and she'd lie to me about what he wrote the song about. And we all had to believe her. We didn't have Google. So we would just listen to her. And it was truly a thing but the language of the neighborhood was hip hop. So I was already writing raps by this time.
It's unusual for somebody to be such a great singer.
You know what's cool about this picture is that I could somehow afford the charm, but I couldn't afford the chain. So that's like a $17 metal chain with a real
That's
charm.
a roller chain.
Yeah, that's a roller chain.
But
And back then it was cool if it hung down to your belly button and I was a long torsoed man.
It's unusual for somebody to be a singer and a songwriter. You do both well. How is songwriting therapeutic for you?
Dude, I think that this is deeper than songwriting, and I'm not playing into the fact that I'm at the World Literacy Summit, but it's about writing. I didn't write music at first. I just wrote. It was like I was encouraged as a kid to I know y'all might not believe this, as well-spoken as I am, but I was not articulate when I was a little chubby kid. I was very misunderstood and didn't know how to get my point across, and my mama was so patient with me. And she'd go, you know what, honey, just go upstairs and write it down and come read it to me. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd go upstairs and write. And and then it turned into like poetry. And then I would come down and then it just started slowly developing. And then hip hop started exploding in the 90s into mainstream America. And I was just extremely fascinated.
And as you wrote, and even to today, I had seen multiple interviews where you're talking to the interviewer, and you said there's something that happens when you go into the writing studio, something that clicks, that you're a different guy in the studio when you're writing than when you walk out. What's that shift?
It's almost like walking into therapy for me. It's like you could be having the best day ever, but you walk in there and know you're fitting to have to deal with some real stuff, you know? And I try to write happy songs. They've just never came out. It's kind of, my wife says, it just doesn't work. My wife says I exercise my demons in the writing room. If I'm getting a little weird, my wife will be like, you hadn't wrote in a while. You should go write. She encourages me, you know.
That's Bunny X for you right there. You know, you said before you don't prefer a stage name. You prefer somebody who names you. And I've said this before when you were in my facility. I said he is the modern day Johnny Cash because I grew up listening to Johnny Cash, and I remember the Man in Black talking about why he doesn't dress in colors.
Yes.
And I don't think you planned this, but I do tell you that you are a kindred spirit to Johnny Cash. And for those that don't know who Johnny is, he also was locked up. And he also talked about pain. Even to when he died, he was writing music when he was in his elder state. People might ask, why do you go back and recall all these dark days? Why are you so comfortable telling your story, talking about incarcerated and being, a drug dealer and somebody who was a bad person, but you're not now? Why do you keep bringing up the past?
Well, you got to think, man, the world is changing now. We wasn't always privileged to have sheriffs like you that were that forward thinking. We wasn't always privileged enough to have a room full of some of the greatest educators in the world that gave a shit about our story of trying to change people through the power of education and giving them second chances. Because of that, now it's a completely different thing. When I was in there was very little hope. There's still just a little hope now, but back then it was very little hope. And I made a decision when I left there. Some people leave one of two ways. They either leave and say, I'm never coming back, or they leave and go, man, if I ever get a chance to come back on my terms, because that's the biggest part, is I prefer to drive myself to jail now. That's my thing. But if I can ever come back on my terms, I want to make sure that I pay it back. And the people go, we love that you're paying it forward. I was like, no, I was a criminal for 25 years, y'all. I'm paying it back.
Give him a hand for that. I spoke yesterday, and I had some people in the crowd, without making eye contact, that have family members that are struggling with addiction. And it started way back when they didn't take school serious. They didn't take reading and writing and those basic foundations. Is it a true tie between literacy, addictions, poverty, crime, and homelessness? Is there a connection?
Oh, dude, it's all hand in hand, and we know that. You know what I mean? The statistics show it. The proof is completely in the pudding, man. It's one of the cases where the left hand always knows what the right hand's doing.
When you got out, was it your knock on the door where a guard said your daughter was born? Was that the shift that said, that's the former Jelly Roll, this is the new one?
Dude, I always compare it to, if anybody's ever read the Bible, there's a story about an apostle named Paul who has this experience in the Bible on this road called the Damascus Road, and he was on his way to go kill more Christians. And God reveals himself to him, and in that moment, he goes from Saul to Paul. His name was Saul, and he turns to Paul. I don't think that relationship with God happens like that in this era, but I will say that for whatever reason, and I'm a man of faith, but I will say that I compare that story to what happened when I had a kid. I know it sounds weird, but it was the first time that the sky opened up for me and I seen something different than a gray prison wall and a concrete wall and a gray steel toilet. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking, man, I've got to do something. And I had a good present father. He was an alcoholic, but he was a great guy that tried to be there as much as he could. And I knew that I wanted to be a father more than I didn't want to be a father. And that's what I tell people is that I'm not, the music thing wasn't my priority when I came home. I didn't come home chasing this dream and like, I want to be the biggest artist in the world, or, that wasn't even a thought. I was like, I just want to be a dad. I just want to be a present father. You know what I mean? I want to be there. I want to break generational curses right now. I want my daughter to not experience what I experienced. I want her to never see me drink a drop of alcohol in this house. I want her to never know what drugs are. I want her to grow up in the side of town I couldn't afford to live in. This was all flooding me like in the moment the guard's like, you had a daughter. And I'm like, what's her name? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, God. And I remember back then, that was the first test of my anger at the time because I immediately lashed out at him. I was so mad. Like, you don't even know her effing name? And I'm like, man, this dude's getting underpaid and overworked. I see this now, right? And he's just bringing me the best news of my life the only way he has it to bring. But the victim in me was, you're the bad guy for bringing me this news. I'm not the bad guy for being in here. And then I sat down on my bunk, and that's when the sky opened. And that's whenever I was like, I got to change. And they had I'm going to try to explain this for people that don't have a friend or family that's been incarcerated. But when you're in a unit that's particularly violent, which is where I always went because I was a gang member and had a violent charge, I knew where I was going when I came to jail. It was the worst room. Like wherever the worst people were, I was going there. And anytime you leave that room, it is try to get out of that unit. It is, they call it checking in, which means you're saying I'm scared. You're saying I can't live in here. I'm scared of the inmates in here. It is a big no-no in prison. There is nothing, that sticks with you every prison you ever go to. So they had an education sheet where you could sign up to get your GED. The same sheet had been in there for the year, roughly a year, 8, 9 months I'd been in there at the time. And that same sheet had never had one name on it because it was the easiest way to check in. So they told me during lockdown, which is count time, where they come and count all the inmates to make sure nobody disappeared. And they opened that door and they popped the doors all at once. I know I'm selling this story dramatically, but I'm trying to get you to visualize it with me. Door opens and I beelined to sign up for the education unit. Now, I'd been in this unit 8.5 months running the poker table. So when I got about halfway to the side, totally different experience. So when I got about halfway to the side of where you sign up for the paperwork, people stopped talking and started watching where I was walking to. About the time I got to the sheet of paper to sign it, excuse my language, you could have heard a mouse piss on cotton. I mean, it was that quiet. You could have heard a mosquito fart. I'm serious. It was that quiet in there. And I walk up and I sign the sheet of paper, and I was so kind of embarrassed, I poked my chest out and said, yeah, that's what's up, and I walked back to my cell. And they came and got me the next day, and I went straight down there and got my GED.
GED, age 23. When you got that recognition, what happened at that moment?
Oh, dude, have you already told the story about me coming to your jail? Or we
No, not yet, man. No.
I'll get there then. So this was another thing that I knew, and this is why I love what you're doing. I can't wait for them to hear, is that I had never been more proud of myself as a human than the day they told me I got my GED. I mean, literally, like as a human. Like I was like, I did it. And the worst part was, it took forever for them to tell me. Every time I'd see a guard, I'd be like, we heard back about the GED. He'd be like, no. And finally, one day, I was like, if we heard back about the GED, they was like, you got it. And I was like, yes! And then I looked and I thought he would be like, yes! And he was like, and I was like, damn. Am I the only person? Is this that standard that I shouldn't be excited about it? But I was so proud of it. And I was like, most kids on their 16th birthday get a car where I'm from because you get your license. It's kind of a thing. On my 16th birthday, I was in a juvenile prison. On your 18th birthday, it's the first day you can be an adult. You can stay out past midnight. So everybody goes out to party past midnight. On my 18th birthday at midnight, when I turned 18, they took me from the juvenile unit to the adult unit where I had been charged as an adult offender. On my 21st birthday, when most people where I'm from are drinking, I was in jail celebrating a birthday. When most kids walked and got a cap and gown, I was incarcerated. And I don't want no pity, y'all. I did this for sure. 100% accountable for every action I ever did. I was wrong as you could be. And I remember thinking, man, it would have been cool to experience any of that. You know, as my daughter gets ready to go to her first prom, Saturday.
Right on.
But I was like, if somebody just would have, you know, we should be encouraging these inmates a little more. You know what I mean? If we were using a little bit more of a love language, a little bit more of a you can, not you can't language. If we were looking for yeses and not nos, how much of these curses and generational curses we could start breaking early. And which leads me to, well, you should too. You want me to tell them what you do?
Go ahead, baby. Just transition. This is beautiful.
So Sheriff Swanson, we're going to talk a lot about what we but this dude is the real deal, y'all. Everything that you've heard today or that you've been hearing this week, this man is special. He should be in charge of America as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? I mean, literally, this dude is, he should be a president in the next 10 years. I've never endorsed a candidate in my life. I will endorse his presidency the day he runs. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, he's special. And I'd already been there, and he was already building a studio because I'd built a studio in the juvenile that I was incarcerated in. I went back and built a studio there for all the juvenile kids and sent a bunch of guitars just to try to give them the chances that we didn't get. And he had heard about what I was doing, so he was interested, and he started telling me what he was doing with the Ignite program. And the more he kept laying it on, I was like, and listen, y'all, I know none of y'all have probably been to Flint, Michigan, and I say this with love, you're not missing much.
Oh, come on.
I say this with love, Sheriff. I love you. I'm just saying that, he's doing this in a market that is underserved, that is undercared for in every way. Flint, Michigan is some of the greatest hardworking people on earth that are living in some of the hardest conditions. It is a tough town. And for him to turn when he told me his recidivism rate, I didn't believe him. I thought he was lying. I was like, this can't be true. And then, but out of everything he said, what he got me was, he said, hey, will you do me a favor? You know how Kaz, he's so excited. He's like this all the time, by the way. He's like, can you do me a small favor? I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, look, you got a show here on this day, and we got a group of graduates that day, and we're doing a ceremony for them. And I cried. I did. I might cry now. But I was like, you're going to give these dudes caps and gowns? He was like, dude, and we're going to bring the whole jail, and we're going to celebrate them in front of everybody. Man, thank you. Man, that touched me, dude. So we woke up, of course, and flew in for the show early and drove to Flint, Michigan. He gives the best police escorts, by the way. Having a sheriff friend is such a bonus. And I watched him give 20 kids, and here's the cooler thing. It wasn't just GEDs. He had 20 people get GEDs that day. He had barbers graduate their barber colleging that day. I got a haircut in his jail that day from an inmate. It was a really good haircut. I was surprised. I was scared at first, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him go. Thank you, brother. He did it right there where they built the studio. I think, what was the other trade class? I don't want to. Welding.
Man.
It was welding. That's
class.
what I thought. I was like, he's got people welding. He had a welding class, and he didn't just celebrate them. He celebrated them with everybody, and it was sending a signal to the rest of the jail that goes, "You can, yes." Where all we heard in jail was, "You can't, no." You know what I mean? And it started sending a different message. And you could feel it in that jailhouse, the change. I've never seen, besides, I'm a little biased back home, me and my sheriff are really good friends too. Besides you and Darren Hall, I've never seen sheriffs get the reaction in their prisons or their jails that y'all do as sheriffs. Because when they used to come into the jail where I was, we'd boo them. When they'd walk in the unit, we would boo. Boo! All 225 of us until they left. We'd boo them out. And to see the love you get in there is special, man. You're doing it right, Sheriff.
Appreciate that, man. I got another half of that story. As he was getting edged up, he chose one of the most dangerous people in the jail to do it. And I told Calvin, I said, Calvin, don't screw it up. But I remember you leaned over, and you said, you know what you're missing, Sheriff? Music. And that was December of 2023, December 5th. And we had some friends at the United Auto Workers, and Steve Dawes says, I'm going to do that. And they wrote the check. And you came back in July of 2024. He didn't have to. And he cut the ribbon at the Jailhouse Music Studio. Click me now. Click me. This is the best photo. Come on now. Wait for it. And this is a studio where these folks now, there you go. These folks now have music therapy. They write music. They record the music. They get to hold that intellectual property. And music has breakthroughs like it did for you. There was a time you were playing, I read, 200 shows in 1 year at $200 a show.
Oh, yeah.
But you kept on going.
True story.
Music has done so much for you. And what has it done? You have taught and spoken and entertained the world. I go to your concerts, I see people with signs. Real music for real people with real problems. When you look out at a mass like that and you see this side of it, what does it tell you being where you're at right now?
It's, dude, once again, I have that's crazy, but this is even crazier, dude. We're at Oxford. This is crazy. I can't believe, I'm wondering if they know my criminal history to let me in here.
We got that
walking
taken
around.
care of.
Yeah, I
You're
was like, I
good.
can't believe we figured this
Yeah.
out. It's all a little weird to me in a really good way. I feel like I ate poop sandwiches for so long that it's every time you eat a steak, I'm still looking over my shoulder like, is somebody gonna try to take my steak? It's cool, man. I quit trying to be happy and I started trying to be useful. And
you hear that?
Yeah.
Trying to find happiness is not as powerful as trying usefulness.
Yes, sir. Finding purpose meant way more for me than finding happiness. And I can tell you, I'm happy more often than I'm not. It's just a byproduct of finding purpose.
How did you push through when you're doing all those concerts and you wonder, when's the break going to come? And what was the break? Was it Save Me?
Yeah, Save Me. I released a song in 2020 called Save Me. It was around June of 20. Yay, thank you. It was around 2020, and I want to give y'all a contextual moment of where we were in our lives when I dropped this song. Where I'm from, we were spraying boxes with Lysol because we were that convinced the coronavirus was coming in the house. I mean, like, our country had been shut down for 90 days at the time, completely shut down. And I released this song, and I guess it was a little bit of I say this and I mean this. You got to be willing to work harder than everybody you know. You got to be willing to do more than everybody you know. You've got to have the talent to back it up, the work ethic and the drive to back it up. But all that don't matter if you don't got a little bit of luck. Just a little bit of luck is just the last ingredient to a really good, faith, baby. A little bit of faith is the last ingredient to a really good cake. And I guess in this really weird way, I was lucky that the entire world was stuck at home and sick of their situation. And I dropped the soundtrack for that year, and it changed my entire. It's 300 million views on YouTube now. It's been streamed 1 billion times.
On that same day, you're wearing it now. You got a sheriff's star on your chest.
I am yeah, you tell them what you did for me.
We got this guy deputized at the Genesee County Sheriff's Office. He's Johnny Law.
What about that, dude? That'll show you, man. I don't want to be the guy that keeps cramming my faith down y'all's throat. But, man, my belief in God was so strong that I still didn't believe that God would one day take me from being an inmate to a deputy. And, man, that shows me that I didn't believe enough, because God had a bigger plan than even I did. This has been one of the coolest things. And I tell everybody I'm a deputy. They call me Deputy Roll on the bus now. It's cool.
I got to tell you what, in Sheriffs in America, this badge represents sheriffs who have given their life, and police officers and law enforcement that go to work every day to protect and to serve. And when a sheriff deputizes somebody, it's not for ceremonial purposes in my world. It is because you've earned the right to wear that badge that people gave their lives for. And to swear you in as a deputy was a huge honor to me. And let me tell you why. You see a lot of people in life. You see a lot of people that want to do some great things. And then you don't see them anymore, and it was just an empty promise. I'm getting choked up, dude. Because I'm telling you right now, he's the real deal. 1,000%. Everything you see behind the scenes, in front of people, if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. This dude flew sick into a little airport in Freeland, Michigan, to drive 55 minutes, police escort, back to Flint, because he told me on a video that he'd be back when I got a music studio. When I found out that you wanted to come here and we worked out magic to get you to the United Kingdom, I'm telling you, you restore hope in people. And many times I reflect back on the great memories that we've had, and I just want you to know, you bless me, man.
Oh, I love you,
If my career ended today, knowing you made me a better man.
Sheriff, I want to tell you something you need to know, and everybody needs to hear me say it to you. Your career is getting started today, Sheriff. Your career is getting started today, Sheriff.
I appreciate it.
This is nowhere near you're going to look back, and this is going to be the beginning of your career.
Amen,
all
brother.
that stuff you did as a sheriff is going to be just what led you into. I don't know what you're going to do next, but I can't wait to watch.
I do.
You're going to be the governor,
I
aren't
have
you?
another one to go to. Thanks, Dad. Hey, listen, man. Tell me almost home. Speaking of homes, Craig Morgan.
Oh.
Listen to this story.
I was incarcerated, and every story I tell today is like, so I was in jail. They're like, yeah, we get it. But they had this is back when the radios were the thing in jail. I think they have iPads now. And we could only get one country station in this prison I was at. And I would listen to it all day long, all day long. And there was this song called Almost Home by a guy named Craig Morgan. And it's a great country classic record. And it tells the story of a homeless man who is asleep in the snow. And they go to wake the homeless man up and to help him. And he looks up at him and goes, man, if you'd have left me alone, I was almost home, baby. I was just fishing by the creek. I was eating fresh cobbler on the stove. He just goes into this story like he was almost home. And I was like, I'm not homeless, but man, I feel that. I'm in the coldest moment of my life. And so when I come home, I Google almost home singer. It says Craig Morgan, not what I thought he'd look like. I'm like, all right, cool. Where's he playing? They say Grand Ole Opry. I'm like, I'm going. And with my little ankle bracelet at the time, I was still on house arrest.
That means tether for those not in the United States. Yeah. It's not a bracelet. It's an electronic monitoring device.
Yeah. And I watched him, and he sang Almost Home, the fifth song. He did 5 songs that night, and I cried uncontrollably, as y'all know I can do now. Y'all have seen it. And I just couldn't get over it. And I made my Grand Ole Opry debut in September of 2021. And I met Craig Morgan that night at the Grand Ole Opry. And the second time I played it, he brought me on stage to sing Almost Home with him and gave me a handwritten lyric sheet.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a true story.
Listening to him on a radio, locked up, going there with the last probably 30, 40, 50 bucks you had to watch.
For sure.
And then to be on stage and then to sing.
Yeah, that's a true story, man. And then to have the relationship with him. You know, music has done so much for me outside of, this is how I describe music. Music changed my life before I wrote one song. Like listening to music, like it could get me out of my dark stuff. When I'm having a really bad day and I don't want to get deeper in my hole, I can put on Juicy by Notorious Big and just completely perk myself up. Like music has always had this ability. And then I started writing songs, and then it started changing how I felt because I could express myself and my darkest, most intimate feelings in a way I didn't feel judged. And then it went on to make me a multimillionaire and bring me to Oxford. So it's like music has changed my life 3 times, dude. It's been nothing but music, dude.
So the last part he just said, and we're almost done. You've gone to juvenile centers. I've seen you at food banks. I see you walk into Walmart and just bless people. I see you come to the Genesee County Jail twice. I see you do things we don't have to. And not one time, I can speak from experience, did I ever sign a contract? Did I ever pay a dime? Nothing. You go when you don't have to. And few people are like that. Why?
I think it's my calling, man. I think that we're supposed to be servants. I think that if we all cared a little more about trying to be there for people, it would just change so much. And I also am a product of being in situations where people wasn't there for me. And when we are able to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes for a second and find empathy in a situation, it just makes you want to show up. I have a heart for the broken, man. I grew up around nothing but drug addicts, alcoholics, and criminals. That's it. That's all I knew. I remember I was in my mid-20s the first time I talked to somebody about drugs, and they looked at me weird, and I was like, your family don't do drugs? And they were like, not one. I was like, you don't have one drug addict in the family? Like, not even a third cousin? They were like, no. I was like, that's crazy. I didn't know. And then I found out that he was normal. I wasn't. I didn't know that. I thought, like, where did this guy grow up? You know, and it's like, but because of that, I just truly have a heart for broken people. I think that it's about, and listen, man, as we're sitting here now, it's a great time to acknowledge, like, there's a quote in the Bible that says there's no greater gift than to give your life for friends. You do that. Your entire life is dedicated to serving others. We're in a room full of people who have dedicated most of their life to serving, helping, educating, and leading others. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we were called to do. It's not even what I was called to do. That's why y'all are here right now. That's what brought y'all to Oxford for this week. Y'all were called to serve people, and you know it. Y'all were called to be there for people. Y'all were called to try to understand the misunderstood, and that's what we're doing here.
When you have parents, because it happens to me all the time, because we've had so much interaction, I'll get emails and phone calls and letters saying, can you have Jelly Roll talk to my son? Can you have Jelly Roll talk to my daughter? There's a mom here whose son has struggled with addictions that all she wants to do is give you a hug. When you
I got a
can't get
hug
to
for
everybody-
her. I can tell you that.
That's Donna right there.
Donna, come on, baby. I got one for you right after this.
What do you tell a
Donna?
parent? Donna, you're coming up now?
That's my mama's name is Donna. Come here, give me a hug, Donna.
come
I got
on,
a
Donna.
I got your name tattooed on my back.
I told you he'd do it. As a man who has no ego, I'm telling you, he's got a huge heart. That's a mom that you just blessed.
I can be an asshole when I'm tired. Somebody in my management team is going, preach.
That's right. Well, they may not get out of the UK if they did something like that. I got sheriffs all
I
over
want
the
you to
place.
know, and I'm not asking for an extra pat on the back here, but I had 3 flights get canceled trying to get here.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm not making this up, dude. I got stuck at weather. We had a plane issue in San Antonio, Texas, which for reference of y'all would be like, I don't even know, like even further than Cardiff. You know what I mean? Like whatever. And yeah, we got some Texas, so I got stuck. And then I had a flight out of Houston to get here. And then my flight out of Houston got canceled to H-Town. And my H-Town flight got canceled. Then I went home, so I had a plan. I was like, all right, we got a plan. We got a Nashville flight leaving at 8, and if that don't go right, we got a midnight flight in Atlanta that we can catch a jet to. And both of those flights got canceled. So we landed at 6 this morning. We had to book a jet.
There you go. For you. I told you he's the real deal. To parents or people that are struggling to support family members that were the little kid, the teenager, the thug with the fake chain, what do you tell them to keep going?
Well, I can tell you that love is necessary, love is important, but this is where people get mad at my honesty. There is a very razor-thin line between loving an addict and enabling an addict. And you're going to have to make some really hard decisions in that process. I'm sure Ms. Donna has before, not to put you on blast, but we're friends now. And it's one of those things where patience is important, love is important, and making sure that you're always pointing them in the direction that you know is best for them, but also having hard boundaries. But I can also tell you this, faith, patience, and belief, and hopefully across the world, especially in America, we start getting some stuff right to have. You shouldn't have to be on your last leg and looking at prison time before you find the Ignite program. And that's what we have to start figuring out. You know what I mean? At some point, we got to get a little further in front of it than even you are now, which is why we need you to hurry up and be the governor. You know what I mean? And then we can move forward from there.
That's very kind, because I tell you, it goes back to you have to be in a position of influence to influence people. But don't wait for it. Start where you are right now. Start there and show the results.
My daddy used to say that change starts in your heart, then your house, then your street, then your neighborhood, then your city, then your state, and so forth. But the change starts in your heart.
You lost your father 2019?
I did. I lost my father 2019 on March the 20th.
Did he get to see this guy?
You know what's funny? This is how white trash we are. I joke with people, but it's kind of real. I think my father lived that long to make sure he thought I was going to be okay, because I was the baby and I was the last one that was still kind of not figuring it out. And of course, I was also the dreamer. Every other brother went and got a job, and I was the one that's like, I'm going to be a musician. It's like worked out. But Dad was he was so. God, thinking about him just brings back so many great memories. But when he was on his deathbed, I had already started taking care of my mother and paying all of her bills a couple of years before that whenever he started getting sick. And I paid for all of his care. And in my father's eyes, I wasn't famous, but I ran an independent thing. I could sell a couple thousand tickets everywhere in America, which was just enough to make way more money than I deserved or was qualified to make. So in my father's eyes, I had made it. Like, that was the cool thing. It's like he died so proud of me. Like, he died on some dude, my son's I don't know where he's getting his money from doing this music thing, but he's paying for all this stuff. And he really was cool. I joke around with my mother now that I don't know what he would make of what actually ended up happening. Like, if he looked at it now and I was like, yeah, I just left, I went and did the Final Four, and then I went to Oxford, and then I'm going back to play stagecoach, he'd be like, what in the fuck are you talking about? Excuse my language. I'm sure I'm not the first person that cussed in Oxford. But didn't they create cussing out here? Wasn't that where it started at? But no, it's like, I think that, but he got to see, what I think that's what's cool about it is. I always say that my I made it moment was the first time I didn't have to put a certain number of money on a gas pump. Like, hey, I got $5 on pump 5. The first time I was like, fill her up. That was like, to me, that was making it. So in my father's eyes, I was already rich and famous in 2019.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So you talked about what the world is, what they need, and the message of your music speaks to people individually. Literacy is part of that whole foundation to keep it going, whether it's Ignite or the great programs and what these folks stand for, the world literacy. Those that are watching right now, you give hope. You show that there is a pathway to keep going forward. Don't stop. Be enthusiastic. But then you've got somebody in your corner that's pushed you along to help you, and her name is Bunny X.
Yes.
Let's talk about the lady in your life.
Oh, dude, man, it's the best decision a human can make in life is to marry the right person. And man, I mean that of everything I've done, everything I'm proud of, every decision I've made to change my life, I can tell you unequivocally the best decision I ever made was marrying the right person. She lit a fire in me, man, and she supports me in such an honest way. She's so reflective and real with me. I was just half asleep on the way here. I only got a few hours of sleep, and I was kind of being a Krabby Patty about it. And she was like, dude, you're in England. What the F is wrong with you? Like, I married that person. You know what I mean? I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm tripping. It's just a little bad sleep. I've done this. I used to do this on cocaine and didn't complain. You know what I'm saying? Now that I'm sober, I'm like, oh, I got 6 hours of sleep. It's like I used to do cocaine for a week at a time. It's just a totally different thing. Marrying her was the right thing, man. And she has a heart for service like I do,
Yeah. That's beautiful. Can I tell you, as we wrap this up, if you didn't know who he was before today.
Oh, I want to say this one more thing before I quit talking. I want y'all to know that I believe the direct relative of literature is art. My personal belief, that's one of the reasons I wanted to come up here. I believe arts and literature have always went together to me. I found so much of my artistry through literature, through years of reading and writing. I became an articulate. When I talked about how not articulate I was from years of sitting in cells and reading books. To this day, if you stick around me for more than 30 minutes, I will say a word that you will tell me I said wrong. Because I don't know how to say it. I've just read it and made up my way to say it over all these years because I didn't get educated. I did want to say that it wasn't even just to come here. One, it was to obviously support you in the vision of believing that second chances are real and that education can help so much of our incarcerated. And I'm sure you know the statistics of how many inmates are not educated.
That's right.
It's crazy. But I did want to say that I just have such a love for it in general. I believe that art and literature are brothers and sisters.
There you go, Oxford. The home of the Oxford English Dictionary right here. Are you coming back to London anytime
That's
soon?
how white trash you are. He said, home of the Oxford English Dictionary right here. I knew you had a little trash in you, too.
That was straight up nerd.
No.
I apologize for that. I just seriously, that was just total Oxford statement right there. Yeah. I really am cool. I promise you.
No,
I
he's
really
cool.
am.
He is cool.
You coming back to do a show anytime soon?
I will. I think I'm coming back here. I keep saying it's the new stadium, Nottingham. Oh, I'm dying. God, thanks.
He's coming back.
I'm coming back. I got me and Post Malone are doing. It'll be my first London show. It'll be me and Post Malone 2 nights. It'll be fun.
I want one final thought, and then I have a little wrap-up surprise for you.
Oh, yay.
And I know you love surprises. But this man also lost
150-something pounds.
50-some pounds.
You can see it in that picture.
Not that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that one. That was a big one too, but that's a big one. Yeah. But look at this man. He's disciplined. He takes care of himself. I was so worried because you have so much more on your on your radar that you can do so much to people, and I just pray that not only longevity and vitality comes to you, but the creative mind opens up and the people around you are solid. You've got a friend with everybody here, man, and I want the world to know I love this guy, and I will go wherever you need me to go to do whatever I need to do to help you.
I love you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah? You excited? Final thoughts. Do you know what the Global Literacy Award is?
No, sir.
You're about to. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the president and the chairman of the World Literacy Foundation.
You don't have to pat yourself on the back. Andy, come on up. All right, Jelly Roll, we are here to celebrate you. Let's hear it. We are here to celebrate your resiliency. Seriously? You sound like a bunch of academics. Let's go. We are here to celebrate your advocacy for adult literacy, and we say thank you. Let's hear it.
Not an academy, but it's sort of an academy behalf on all of us here within the literacy community from about 63 different countries around the world, and really just thanking you for your voice, your advocacy, and what you're doing. We love you.
I want you to know that as of today, that's 60 more countries that I've been to, that I haven't been to yet.
So Jelly Roll is now an official ambassador of the World Literacy Foundation.
Oh, I got somewhere to put it, baby. Well done. No, dude, thank y'all. I'm going to put this right next to my Craig Morgan thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jelly Roll, stand, welcome him, say thank you, show him your love. He flew all the way from the United States to be here with y'all. I wish we had some music.
I'm absolutely honored, by the way. Thank y'all so much, man. This means a ton to me. Thank you.
There
This
we
is the
go.
closest thing to a college diploma I'll ever have. Thank you.
All right, hey, I know it's going to be quick, but he has just a few minutes. He gave a green light to do some handshakes and some high fives. So get your camera out. We're going to start with the line right here. We're going to move it fast. He can't hear about all your products and programs, but he can say what's up and I love you. Start right here. Look at here we go. One at a time.
What's up, big dog?
Keep in the line. Here we go.
Much love, brother, man.
There we go,
Are
Chris.
you here too? Are you based out of London?
He's in the United States. Yeah.
Oh, you're in Wisconsin. We got a link, dude. You got to come to my next show when I'm out in Wisconsin. I'll be out there later this year.
There you go. All right, here we go. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. May I have a photo with both of you?
Yeah, you got it. There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Take a picture of us.
Thank you.
And we from the Cayman Islands.
Oh, Cayman Islands. Here we go. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, got you. Right here. Oh, no, just jelly. Right here. Go ahead. There you go.
That was sort of one of the mics up the front there.
There you go. All right. There you go.
Yes.
There you go. There we go.
I'm from the Adirondacks.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Hi.
There you go. Here we go. We're gonna move along to get as many as we can.
Oh, yeah, thank
And
you.
you too.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Right there. There we go. Thank you so much.
Okay, I want you to because my son's
nice.
in political science.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Can I have you two?
Oh, yeah.
I used to teach college at St. Quentin.
Oh, wow. I gotta
Wow.
tell you
She's a
story.
prison teacher.
Nobody knows this, but I'm going to do a show live from San Quentin on HBO later this year.
Oh my
The biggest
gosh.
secret of my life. The biggest secret of my career right now.
Nice. Oh, nice. There we go. There we go.
Oh, bless. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, we're good. One more. One more. Sorry. There you go. Thank you. You're welcome.